Hey everybody, this is Mr. Storm, and in this video, we're going to pick up where we left off. But first, I want to fix that little glitch we had in our navigation, where if we tried to run off the map, it would just let us. Or if we were trying to run off the side of the map, it would wrap us around back to the top. So we're going to fix that first. What we need for that is we need to add a new variable called blocked path message. Now, there are a couple of ways we could do this. You could do it the way I did it, where you give them the same message every time they try to run off the map. Or if you want to do something a little more interesting, you can create an array of blocked path messages and have it tied to each room specifically. So like if you're, in the forest, right, and they try to go off the path in the wrong way, you could say, don't go that way. You'll get lost in the woods, right? Something like that. You can make an array with individual messages per, where they are. I'm just going to do one, but you can absolutely do an array full of individual messages for each area. Now, one thing you also might want to do is have a customized message for each area. So whenever you enter it, they can either type search and you can add that to the terms that you know, and then you can add a new case that handles searching. And then it will pull up that custom message for every location. These are just ways to expand on the game. All right. So we have, sorry, you can't go that way. Now we need to implement that in some way. So let's go to, now if you're seeing stuff on here that is different that you don't have, don't freak out, right? We're going to cover all the new changes that I've added in this video. We're just doing it in a specific order so that we don't get confused. Okay, so let's come down to our switch, which is handling our movement. You'll see that there is some different stuff. Why is there such a big gap here? You'll see that there are some different things in here. This looks different from yours, right? And it's supposed to. What I'm doing here is I'm looking at each case and I'm saying, hey, if we shouldn't be able to go up, let's not go up, right? So if I'm telling my game, hey, I want to go north, what we're going to do is we're going to say if the map location that we're in is greater than or equal to 3, then we go up. Okay, so think about it like this, right? With my dead wrong here, let's say we are in 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, right? Any of these we should be able to go up. Okay. Now, what all these numbers have in common, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, is they're all greater than 3. But 3, 2, and 1, those are not greater than 3. So we're just going to very quickly check to see if our number is greater than 3. If it is, hey, you can go up, right? So that's how we're going to set that up. That's pretty easy. Now, else, meaning if it's not greater than 3, then we give them that game message, that blocked path message, and we don't actually change our location. Okay, so let's see how this works in practice. Let me run my game here. Let's go north. Okay, so we go up to room 2. Now ignore the UC item 1 here. We're going to do that in just a minute. But I'm up at room 2. I should not be able to go north again. So let's try it. Sorry, you can't go that way. Okay, so that's working properly. All right, so that's north. East. This is going to take a little bit more explaining. So let's take a look here. So if we look at our grid here, we have 0, 4, and 6. Okay. Oh no, 0, 1, 2, 3. Sorry, 0, 3, and 6. Yes, 0, 3, and 6. No, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 0, 3, and 6. Okay. I'm talking myself out of the right answer. So over here, what we're going to do is we're going to say if map location modulus 3 does not equal 2. All right, so this is a bit of math that we have to think about. But essentially what we're doing here is we're saying, oh no, we're going east. Sorry. We're going east. Okay, so we're over here. We want to go east. So let's say we are at 2, 5, 0, 1, 2, 5, and 8. Okay, so 2, 5, and 8. All right, so over here, we're going to modulus 3. If that does not equal 2, then we get to move. So the handy thing is 2, 5, and 8, when you do a modulus of 2 operation, they all return 2. All right? That's just, they all return 2. They've divided, and then there's a remainder of 2. So all of these will return a modulus 2. None of these will return a modulus 2. So if we do a modulus operation of 3 does not equal 2, then we know that we're not on the very east edge of our map. So we can say map location plus equals 1. Now, if you're not understanding the math here, it's probably because of the modulus operation. It's not something I talk about too much in this class, but if you're in my programming class, you hear a lot about modulus operators. Just know that if you write it the way that I wrote it there, if you write it just like this, it will work. All right. So if we're going south, all we're doing is check to see if our map location is less than 6. That I hope is pretty easy. And then map location for west, going west, is we're checking to see if the modulus does not return 0, right? So that would be 0, 3, and 7, 3, 4, 5, 6. 0, 3, and 6. Okay, so those would return 0 if you modulus them by 3. All right. And so let's see. So that's all of that. So that's going to fix the error of us running into the edge or running off of the edge of the map. Okay. Now, let's talk about items. Okay. Let's scroll up here. And let's find my item area. Okay. So we want to implement some items in our game. We want to put some items in the game that we can actually pick up when we go to those locations, and then we can use those items later to pick up other items or do some other things. Now, I'm going to show you essentially how to do this, but I'm not going to, there's going to be one full method that I do not help you write. And that is going to be because what you do with this item is going to be different. You'll see what I mean. But what we are going to do is I want to implement at least 3 items in the game. Yours can be anything you want. You can have even more items than this. I'm just going to say, hey, I want to do 3 items. Okay. I'm calling mine item 1, item 2, item 3. Yours can be anything you want. Flute, a sword, a basketball. I don't care what it is. Your items can be whatever you want them to be. So I've created an array called items, and I've put my items in that array. Then I want to create another array called item locations, and this is going to put the items in their correct locations. So I'm going to put item 1 at location 1. I'm going to put item 2 at location 6 and item 3 at location 8. That way I know those items exist in the world. Now, here's another option. You could have an array called item locations and only have one thing in there, meaning only one item in the game at first. And then whenever you find that item and pick it up, then you can use that item to get all the other items, right? And so you would do that by only having one item location in here, and that would be tied to the first item in the array. And then whenever you use an item, which that's the method I'm not going to help you write, whenever you use an item, it checks to see if you have that item in your backpack first. If you do, then it allows you to pull in that new item. We'll talk about that more. Speaking of backpack, you need to create an array, an empty array called backpack. This is going to be where you store all your items. Don't worry if you're like, but Mr. Storm, my game is like a fantasy game. I don't have a backpack. It's cool. It's just the name of the variable. You can display it however you want on your game. Okay, so we have backpack. Now, we need to add a couple of our actions I know. We're not just moving around anymore. We also want to be able to take an item and use an item, okay? So we're going to add 2 more actions to the actions I know array. So take and use. Now, because we want to be able to type in the name of these items to take them specifically, we want to create a variable called items I know and then set our item equal to nothing, okay? So what that's going to do is whenever we're typing into the text box, for example, this example here, let's say I want to take, I'm going to have to type item 1. And if I do that, then I take that item. I am carrying item 1. So I take that item, it gets removed from the game world, it gets put into my backpack, and now I have item 1. No matter where I go in the game, it's with me. Okay? So we need to set up a way to do that because not only are we going to type an action, but we're also typing items as well. So we need to be able to find the items that we're talking about. Okay. Now in the render function, let's go down to the render because we need to add this before we forget. So in the render function, oh no, that's not in render, is it? No, it's not. Let's go back up to the play game function. Okay, so up here in the play game function, there it is. So remember this for loop here that said, actions I know length, and it looped through the entire array of actions I know to check to see if what they typed, what your user types, is an action that they actually know. We're going to do the same thing for items I know. We're just going to replace the word action with item. So var I equals 0 equals items I know dot length. If player's input dot index of items I know, I does not equal yada, yada, yada. So we're going to find that item in that items I know array. Perfect. Okay. Beautiful. So that's done. Now we want to, let's go down. Oh, right here. So then inside of our switch, we want to add a couple new cases. So it's going to be in between the west case and the default. Default's always going to be the last case in your switch. So we're going to add a couple new cases, and all these cases are going to do is call a function. Take, we'll call take item, and then use, we'll call use item. All right. So that's that. And then inside the render, let's add a for loop inside the render method. This for loop is going to loop through the items in the world. And then it's going to tell you if you show up to a place that has an item, it'll display that. So we'll say for I equals 0, I is less than items dot length. So it's looping through the items array. If map location equals item locations, I, meaning the map location and the item location match, then we'll output to the screen that says UCA and strong. We're going to use the strong tag here just to kind of make it bold. So we'll tell them the item that they see on the screen. Okay, now we also want to output we want to display the amount of items or which items you have in your backpack. So we'll say if backpack.length does not equal 0, then we're going to output some inner HTML you are carrying, and then we'll use this backpack.join. The join method is going to take every item in that array and then put them together in a string, but they're going to be separated with a comma space. So it'll be formatted well. All right. Okay, so that's all that stuff. Now let's talk about our two functions that we've created, or the two functions that we've called. We need to actually create them and do something with them. So let's do the take item function first. So what we need to do here is we need to find the index number of the item in the items array. So we're going to create a new variable called index. And we're going to set it equal to items.index of item. So the item that we typed, it's going to create, or it's going to basically store the index of that item in the items array. Then we're going to check to see if this item exists, if it's even real. Is it an item that exists in my game? And if the item's location matches where it's supposed to be in the world. If it is, if those two things are real, if those two things come back as true, then we want to add the item to the player's backpack. We'll give them a message saying you take the item, and then we'll use this backpack.push, and we'll put the item in their backpack. So now our backpack array has an item in it. All right. Then we want to remove that item from the game world. We don't want to be able to duplicate items and have the same item just exist in the game world and we can pick it up a billion times. Or maybe you do. I don't know. It's up to you. But we want to remove the item from the game world, items.splice, and then we want to remove the item location as well, item locations.splice. Okay. And then I have a couple of console logs. Down here, my face is kind of covering it. Oh, didn't want to move that. Wrong thing to move. Let's move that. Okay. So over here, you can see that I have my console window, and this is telling me all the actions that are happening as they're happening. Matter of fact, let's move my, I keep clicking the wrong thing. Nah, that's not great. Anyway, so like as I pick up stuff, it tells me. That's for me as a developer to kind of see what's going on behind the scenes in my game. So that's what I want. Okay, now if that item doesn't exist, or if we're not at the right location and I try to take an item, so let's say, for example, let's go west, right? I'm still carrying item 1 here, and let's try to take item 2. You can't do that, right? Because item 2 doesn't exist at this area, all right? So we want to send the game message, you can't do that. Okay, now down here, I have my empty use item function. Here's why. I want you to figure out what you want to do whenever you use an item. Now, it's obviously going to be sent. It's going to determine. Going to be determined by how you want your game to go, how you want your game to run. So let's say you have, I don't know, a flute and a rock and a sword, right? And the goal of the game is to get the sword, right? And so when you go to the well, or let's say you're on a gravel path, you pick up the rock, right? You see a rock, you pick it up. Then you take the rock to the well, and you have to throw the rock in the well. And then when you do that, the flute pops out of the well. Okay? So then you take the flute. And then whenever you go to the, I don't know, the mossy glen, or, you know, the clearing in the woods, and play the flute, the sword pops out of the lake or whatever, right? So using one item will cause another item to appear, right? That's one way you can do it. And if you do it that way, it's going to cause you to, there's going to be some things where you have to think about, okay, which items exist in the game world currently? How do I add items to the game world once I use the correct item? Which for that, you can just use this push to push new things into an array. There's also, all kinds of things that you could do. Let's say you don't want it to be a string of items that you find in order. Let's say you want to just collect a bunch of items in the game, and then, but there's a timer, right? So you have to go to every location in the game and collect an item, and if you don't, then the game then the time runs out. You could do that. You can have, I don't know. I mean, there's all kinds of combinations of how this game works. Now, again, my game is boring because I don't have custom pictures for locations. I don't have nice, cool locations. I don't have any people. There's no NPCs in this game. There's nothing interesting in this game. But we're 260 lines of code here. And I was going to expand on this and make it more complicated. But honestly, I just want to see what you guys come up with. I want you to stretch yourself and show me what you can do in terms of programming. Everything you should need to build out an interesting, fun game should already be here. I've walked you through all of the most complicated stuff. Now it's up to you to make a fun game out of it. Okay? So I'm actually going to just leave this function blank. And I'm going to let you guys figure out how to make a game out of this using items. Now, you don't have to use a use item function. Matter of fact, you don't even have to give the ability to use the item. You can just pick up items in the game world and check to see if the amount of items that you've picked up equals a certain threshold. And if it does, you can tell them they won the game. Or you can, I don't know, there's all kinds of stuff you can do. I mean, again, I'm not going to keep rambling here. I'm going to let you guys get started. Once your game works the way mine is working, you're most of the way there. You just have to make a game out of this. I'm excited to see what you come up with. Remember, make sure you have pictures, unique items, unique locations, all that stuff. I want to see all unique stuff, all right? But once you're there, go ahead and turn in your project. And I can't wait to play them. And I will see you next time.